Hello, people of the earth and internet. I'm 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐤𝐈. What we're doing here today is so fucking important. We are here today to discuss one of the greatest TV shows ever made, and there's only 4 episodes out currently, The Amazing Digital Circus, created by 𝐬𝐨𝐜𝐢𝐴. So who is 𝐬𝐬𝐜𝐿? 𝐬𝐬𝐜𝐿 is an American YouTuber, musician, cartoonist, animator, and webcomic writer. Also, 𝐬𝐬𝐜𝐿 knows 𝐬𝐨𝐫𝐿 from 𝐻AS BEEN HOTEL. They're friends, and 𝐬𝐬𝐜𝐿 has worked on the animation for 𝐻AS BEEN HOTEL, so that's really fun. I have notes today for the video. I know, who is she? I'm here today to take you on a journey through this amazing, insane little show that first premiered on October 13th, 2023. Why are there only 4 episodes, you ask? Because it takes them about 3 to 4 to 5 months to put out an episode because it is independent and the animation style is incredibly intricate 3D computer rendered animation that is jarring as hell but also so striking and beautiful. Before we jump on in today, what is The Amazing Digital Circus about? So The Amazing Digital Circus follows our protagonist here. We'll get to her name in a bit, we'll get to it. She wakes up in a digital reality of the Amazing Digital Circus with several other individual humans who have woken up in this digital reality, run by a wacky AI named 𝐤𝐻ANE, and none of them can leave. And every day, 𝐤𝐻ANE makes them go on different weird little adventures with a bunch of NPCs to just entertain him, essentially. And it's this exploration of AI and sentience among artificially created beings and circusry and the human condition and friendship. And every episode is like hilarious, devastating, and disturbing. What more could you want? I'm currently wearing this shirt that says the Candy Bandits. Oh my god. That's where this guy comes in. That'll make sense. That'll make sense when we get to episode 2. I don't quite know why you would watch this video if you haven't seen the show. Maybe you just want to enjoy the vibes, in which case, thank you so much. Also, thank you to all my new subscribers who came over in the midst of the dark, scary time here in America known as the TikTok ban. That was terrifying. That was scary. I was scared.
Almost lost my cool there.
But there's like a few more of you now. Thank you so much. Welcome, hi, hello. People of the earth and internet. That's what we say here. That's what we've been saying here for 10 years now. Can you believe it? Obviously, you should subscribe and follow me on all my other social medias.
Quiet. I can't hear the escalator.
The first thing we see is 𝐤𝐻ANE and Bubble, and they pop up on the screen and they're like, welcome to the Amazing Digital Circus. And I will tell you, when I first watched the show, my sister told me about it. She was like, I just heard about the show. Circus, AI, sounds right up your alley. The main character looks like a clown. I was like, you're absolutely right. I'm the target audience. I watched it during an insomnia-riddled pain spasm night. I watched it in the dark on my phone. And when 𝐤𝐻ANE first popped up on screen, you know, that's the first shot you get, I did think, I don't know if I can look at this for 2 hours of content, because each episode's about 20 to 30 minutes. I was like, I don't know if I can do it, but I stuck with it. So just be warned. The animation is a bit like, what the fuck, at first. It's very 2000s, like mid-2000s computer game, but that is the point. 𝐤𝐻ANE's like, welcome to the Amazing Digital Circus. It's this wonderful fake world. And then a weird little children's theme song starts that introduces us to our main cast. We've got 𝐬𝐻ANE, 𝐬𝐵𝐿, 𝐤𝐻ANE, Jax, and Ragatha, and 𝐿𝐻ANE. But this little sign comes up that says, 𝐿𝐻ANE didn't come into work today. And 𝐿𝐻ANE looks like a clown. And our main girl here looks like a jester. And I think that's important. So in the midst of their little song, our girl shows up. She's horrified. She's like, what in the actual fuck? She bumps into people, it messes up the whole theme song. She's like, where the fuck am I? And then Jax, who is voiced by Michael Kovac, who if you hear his voice and think, wow, that sounds familiar, which I did.
Because if it's a new character, we're gonna have to redo this whole theme song.
And you look him up, he's the original voice actor from the 2019 pilot of 𝐻AS BEEN HOTEL.
I owed my girl buddy a solid. Isn't that a redeeming quality?
And I think that's amazing. That like predisposed me to love Jax. I did end up also really liking his character, but like you hear it and you're like, is that angel dust? Be still my beating heart. So then 𝐤𝐻ANE's like, oh my god, a new human has stumbled into our amazing digital world. And she's like trying to tear off, she's like pulling at her face and she's like, how do I get this headset off? I put this headset on, so like a VR headset. She's like, and now I'm in this world. And let me tell you, that awakened a new irrational fear in me. I've only used VR twice in my life. Once when my brother-in-law brought his VR here for Christmas a few years ago before the world ended in 2020, and a second time at the Immersive Monet exhibit in DC. And now I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can ever put on a VR headset. Certainly not while I'm alone. Don't drive drunk. Don't text your ex. Don't put on VR headsets when you're alone. Don't let the police in without a warrant. And moisturize. She's pulling out her face. She's like, oh my God, how do I get it off? And Jax is like, just keep pulling on it. That all worked for us. He's a smart ass. He's a king. He's a queen. He's an icon. And I love him. I asked my sister if she thought Jax was hot. And she said no. And that's incorrect. Main girl Jester starts cursing. But when she does, little like censor bubbles pop up over her mouth. And Kane's like, oh, we can't have any of that profanity here in this family-friendly show. And she's like, great. How do I leave? And Ragatha is like, you can't. Ragatha's like, welcome to your new home. And Zubul says, and your new body. Which somehow to me, that's the more horrifying sentence. Because like, okay, I gotta acclimate to a new place that's like scary and weird. I don't like that. But then I'm also not in my body. The actual fuck. Jax says that they've been there for years and supposedly Kinger's been there the longest. Now there's a lot of things in this show that I'm like, that's something to think about. I've watched the first 4 episodes 3 times now and I've paid very close attention and there is never seems to be a shot wasted, a word wasted. It is all very purposeful and important to figuring out what the fuck's going on, how everyone got to the Amazing Digital Circus, why the Amazing Digital Circus was created, what's the point, what is Kane, etc., etc. So throughout the video, I will be saying, like, pay attention to that, flag that, that's something to think about. And then I will at the end get into my loose theory. And watch by the time this video comes out, they're already all proven wrong because Gooseworks is always on Tumblr telling us when we're absolutely wrong about our theories, which is valid of them. Anyway, then Kane's like, let me give our new guest a tour of the grounds. He's like, hey, here's the grounds. You can drown yourself in our digital lake. You can hang out in the circus, which is this big circus tent, and that's where they just were. And he's like, and then here's the sun and the moon. And she's like, is that it? And he says, of course not. And they take her out into this white abyss and says, this is the void. And he says, but don't go out there. I don't even go out here because I don't even know what's out there. And then they go back to the circus. He asks her what her name is and she freaks the fuck out because she doesn't know what her name is. First, it's like, this is your new home. This is your new body. And now you don't know your name. So she like, you have every part of who you actually are and were stripped away and have to like build a new identity in life from the ground up. It's unsettling, that's for sure. And that's why you don't put on VR headsets when you're alone. Because you don't know what could happen. She's like, I have no idea what the fuck, what is my name? Kane's like, that's fine, nobody remembers their names when they get here. So that's fucking rude that he said, what is your name? When he knew she wasn't gonna remember her name. So she says, whatever, just pick a name. So he has like a little slot machine thing with letters pop up.
What do you think of...
She's like, no. He says, you're right, that sucks. He does it again, the name Pomni comes up. He says, how's Pomni? She says, that's great. Pomni starts saying, oh, okay, it's just a dream. I'll play along. And Jax is like, okay, sure, sweetheart. And Jax says, sweetheart, that does something to me. Listen, I'm right. Shut up. So Kane says they need to have a new adventure to welcome Pomni. And today's adventure will just be taking place in the circus. And it's called Capture the Gloinks. What are the Gloinks, you may ask? They're just these things. They're like these little creatures that just, I'll let Kane explain it.
Gloinks are small, mischievous critters that steal anything and everything they run into. Why do these humanoid hash browns do this? How do you stop them? That's for you to find out!
He vanishes. Zubul tries to dip out on the adventures because they hate the adventures. Zubul never wants to participate in them. So they go to leave, but then the Gloinks pop up and like obviously they capture Zubul in their weird taking people apart thing and they bounce off and they jump in this big black hole. And Jax goes,
Oh no, they killed Zubul.
Pomni mentions that she saw an exit when she first got there. And they're like, babes, there is no exit. Kinger's like, oh, where's 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐿? He didn't come to work today. And he was going crazy mentioning an exit too. So wow. And Jack's like, wow, Pomni's already going insane thinking there's an exit. To which Pomni says, doesn't it make more sense that there is an exit if more than one person thinks there's an exit? And they're like, whatever, shut up. Let's go find 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐿. So Ragatha, Jax, and Pomni go to find 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐿 and see why he didn't come to work. They leave Kinger and 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐿 in charge of watching the hole where Zubul just got taken by the Gloinks. Are you following? Ragatha, Jax, and Pomni walk down this hall of rooms, and Ragatha explains even though they don't need to sleep, they can, and they all have their own room with their own picture on the door so that they can have like a place to rest and pretend there is a conscious passage of time. Which is another thing to think about, as Jax goes, oh, we've been here for years. How do they even know when a day has come and gone? The sun and moon are both out simultaneously. There's no windows inside the circus. There's no clocks. I don't know. That's something to think about. So then Pomni's like, you guys don't even try to leave, and Ragatha's like, well, everyone tries when they first get here, but then like you just go insane trying and you realize there is no way out. So as they're walking down the hall and we see all the rooms, we pass some other rooms with pictures on them of characters that we were not introduced to out in the front of the circus. And besides 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤, we are told that the people at the front of the circus are the only people in the circus. So who the fuck are these people on the doors? And we realize that these pictures on the doors have X's through them. The people who have X's through them are a dog, an anteater type thing, a pink thing, and a queen chess piece. Think about it. So they get to 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤's door. He doesn't open up. Jack says, don't worry, I have a key. Ragatha says, why the fuck do you have a key? You're not supposed to have a key. And he's like, I have keys to everybody's room. Why and how, Jax? Why and how? They get into 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤's room. The word exit has just been written all over the room, red rum style. It's very upsetting. The lights are flickering. And 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 is there in the center, but he's not a jovial little clown like that cutout we saw back in the beginning. He's a big, scary, glitching black mask with a million flashing rainbow-colored eyes. And it's like, oh, that seems less than ideal. There's a bowling ball in there, and Jax goes, oh, I've been looking for this, grabs it, leaves. Ragatha and Pomni, for some reason, do not also run away. But then 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤, in his new state, is approaching, and they're like, oh, 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤's abstracted. So apparently whatever that is called abstracting. So that's not good. 𝐬𝐨𝐜𝐿 says that Ribbit abstracted before 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤. How recently? No one mentions Ribbit. No one mentions any of the other people. They say 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐻's been there the longest, but 𝐒𝐮𝐻 doesn't have a good memory. Does 𝐒𝐮𝐻 remember these people? Does Jax? Does Ragatha? Does 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤? Does 𝐤𝐵𝐿? Like, how often are people coming in and out? So then it's like, oh, are the people who have X's through their faces on the doors abstracting? What? And so abstracting is basically like staying in the digital circus for so long drives you fucking insane, and you come out of your digital body and become this disturbing mass. And I guess you just don't really respond to who you once were. You're just like a monster, like a thoughtless monster now. You're a glob, you're a Stephen King creation. So they start backing out of there. Pomni's like, wow, my first day and this is what's going on. Ragatha's like, oh my god, 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤, I'm sorry, I didn't like laugh at your jokes, I was having a bad day. 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 then picks Ragatha up and just Hulk smashes this bitch all around. She starts glitching. She's like, Pomni, please help me. I know you don't want to. I know you think it's all a dream. So Pomni, again, still like, I don't know. And like, I don't know if anyone judges Pomni for her behavior in this scene, but I understand it because one, she got there 5 minutes ago. What the fuck? I don't think everyone else's first day went like this. Two, she does want to believe it's still a dream. Three, I don't really know what her tools would be to help in this situation anyway. But she goes to grab Ragatha's hand, and then it causes Pomni's own hand to start glitching. So then that would mean if Pomni were to grab Ragatha and try to carry her away, then Pomni would glitch too and not be able to get anywhere. So by that thought, not helpful. And Pomni also doesn't even understand what this abstracting thing is. So Pomni says, I'm sorry, and she eats it out of there to hide from 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤. Jax meets back up with 𝐒𝐮𝐻 and 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤, and they're just staring into the pit where 𝐤𝐵𝐿 went. They haven't really done anything proactive. They're not really leaders.
I don't know what I'm looking at here.
We saw 𝐤𝐿 carry one of 𝐤𝐵𝐿's pieces down there, remember?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the recap.
And Jax shows up with the bowling ball, and they're like, oh my god, great, you're back. How's 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤? And Jax is like, he's amazing. Never seen him so happy. He wanted me to give you this. Throws the bowling ball at them. It knocks into 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤, unravels her ribbon. She goes right into the hole. 𝐒𝐮𝐻 goes with her. Jax jumps into. You fall down the hole, down slides, and then there's this funny thing where crash into like some bowling pins. A sign comes up that's a strike. Jax walks over, takes the title out of the air and snaps in half. It's just funny. The rules of like physics don't apply in this world. They keep going. They found themselves in the 𝐤𝐿 lair where the 𝐤𝐿 mother is. She's a big slug thing with a bunch of eyes. They see 𝐤𝐵𝐿. They're like, oh my god, 𝐤𝐵𝐿. 𝐒𝐮𝐻 and 𝐤𝐿 do rock, paper, scissors to see who's gonna go save her. And you would think that the winner wouldn't have to go risk their lives, but apparently the winner is the person who does want to go risk their lives. So 𝐒𝐮𝐻 wins, and he goes over to save 𝐤𝐵𝐿, but because his hands aren't really attached to his body, when he goes to pick up their head, the 𝐤𝐿s just kind of also go away with Kinger's hand attached to 𝐤𝐵L's head, and then they jump into the Gloink mother's mouth. So 𝐤𝐵L's been eaten. Pomni doubles back to Ragatha, and she apologizes for ditching her, but is like, look at my hand, what was I supposed to do? And Ragatha says, that's fine, go get 𝐭e, he can help. Pomni's like, where the fuck is 𝐭e? And she's like, I don't know, around. 𝐭e is omnipresent in this world, so the fuck isn't he already helping? Because he's a sick bastard, and this entertains him. But I still love him, because he's so whimsical about it. Pomni goes searching for 𝐭e. But she stops because she sees the exit again in a different spot, just this standing door. She goes in it. How could you not? And the exit just keeps leading through endless like office space rooms to more exits and over and over and over again. Back in the Gloink lair, the abstracted Kaufmo crashes through the ceiling, crushing the Gloink mother, which ejects 𝐤𝐵L's body parts from the monster's belly. Kinger catches with his hands come back to him, and he catches 𝐤𝐵L, and he's like, did you experience a game show in there? And 𝐤𝐵L's like, what the fuck? 𝐤𝐵L's then pissed. They're like, oh, Pomni's not even here. This whole fucking adventure was for Pomni. And then Gangle and Kinger are like, oh my god, how are we gonna get out of here? And then Jax is like, there's an escalator over there.
Wait, Pomni's not even here? Wasn't this whole thing for her?
Be quiet. I can't hear the escalator.
Pomni keeps running through endless exit door after exit door that leads to just office spaces until she sees an old computer set. And next to this old computer is a VR headset. No one's at the computer though. Pomni starts like having a nervous, panic, maniacal laugh, runs through another exit door, and she's now in the void, and she just zones out looking at something. We cut to 𝐭e and Bubble at a lunch with a bunch of NPCs that just look like those sketch model dolls that people have, so you can like to learn how to sketch people. Do you know what I mean? You do, because I'm showing you a picture on screen right now. But he's like, egad, somebody's in the void. So he pops to the void, saves Pomni, pops back to the circus right as everyone's showing up. Kaufmo comes in all abstracted. 𝐭e's like, into the cellar you go, opens a hole in the floor, and magically levitates Kaufmo in there. And you see all these other sets of abstracted beast eyes. So again, it's like, oh, so those are all the people with the X's on their doors. Which again, they said Kinger's supposedly been here the longest. So what? Ragatha crawls in, says she's in so much pain. 𝐭e snaps his fingers, it fixes Ragatha's full body glitching and Pomni's hand glitching. Ragatha comes and stands awkwardly next to Pomni. I'm gonna let you know right now, I find Ragatha incredibly annoying. She has that toxic positivity vibe that I cannot fucking stand, and I also think she's boring. Apologies to anyone who loves Ragatha out there, she's not for me. So all these people who weren't there as long as Kinger are abstracting? No, Kinger's not really all there upstairs. But you have to wonder, if Kinger has been here the longest, if that is true, then how is he keeping it together when these people didn't keep it together? Is there like a specific inciting incident that makes people abstract that can be avoided? Why does Jax have a key to Kinger's room and everyone's room? Why did Jax say supposedly? All things to think about. 𝐭e gives the gang a digital dinner feast as a reward. Pomni sits there mortified. Everyone else is just chatting because it's just another Tuesday for them. The camera zooms out. We see ourselves. We zoom out to the grounds, to the abyss, further and further and further into the void until it zooms all the way out to that same old computer set Pomni saw with the headset on the side, but there is nobody wearing the headset. End of episode 1.
Oh, Bubble, you always know how to make me say this exact sentence.
You're violating my ears with your clapback.
This is my favorite episode. It's where we meet this guy. Let's get into it. I just hit myself. The Pomni has a nightmare that she is abstracted right away, and she's falling down into the cellar hole, and she sees Ragatha and Jax and 𝐭e looking down at her, and they're like, I don't even remember her name, what a loser, can't believe that bitch abstracted already. She wakes up, Ragatha's knocking on her door, being very desperate and thirsty, and is like, Pomni, are you okay? Pomni, come out and find out the next adventure. So they go out, 𝐭e's there, and he's like, oh my god, time for the next adventure. We're going to the Candy Kingdom because the Candy Bandits have stolen their #1 export resource, which is syrup, and you gotta go get it back. You gotta help the Candy Princess.
An entire kingdom of candy sounds sticky.
Very sticky indeed.
Sounds
Bubble, you can't say that.
And Pomni makes a good point where she's like, oh, so our only purpose here is to LARP? To which 𝐭e is like, no, That's crazy. Why would you say such a thing? 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 sneaks out. They're not having it. They don't want to do the adventure, and 𝐭 is bummed about that. But then 𝐭 does get very anxious over Pomni pointing out there is no purpose to their adventures, and is like, the Candy Kingdom needs you, and shoves them through a portal into a new landscape, another full of NPCs and such. It's very Wreck-It Ralph, Candy Crush Race, whatever Vanellope Von Sweets was playing for, and they go meet the princess, and she's like, oh my god, welcome to the Candy Kingdom. It's so great to have you here, brave knights. And Ragatha's like, look, Pomni, we just got here and we're already friends with the princess. And it's like, shut up. And Pomni's like,
I'm not a child. You don't have to hype me up.
correct, Pomni. Put that annoying bitch in her place. I'm sorry. I need to calm down. So they're like, here's your own syrup truck to go chase down the bandits. We cut to the Candy Bandits. These three guys. These three icons. And they're talking about getting the syrup back to the village so their leader, so that his mom can pull through. And this is another thing to think about, is why do the NPCs have their own scene and dialogue without the players there? They see that the team is coming and they're like, oh no. They also all have Australian accents, which I really like. I don't know why, but I love it. I love these Australian gummy gator candy bandits. I love it. So their leader is like, oh my god, they want to race. So then it's very Mad Max Fury Road style. They're racing. Jax is being an absolute menace during this, and it's really funny.
I'll jump over, crawl inside, and shoot him repeatedly until they're unrecognizable.
I feel like that violates some kind of convention.
You're violating my ears with your clapback.
He's like, Pomni, I have an idea, because Pomni's limbs kind of stretch, like Monkey D. Luffy style. So he yeets her out the window so that she can stretch between the two trucks, and he can climb over, but like that doesn't work, and she gets snapped over, and then she's on top of the roof of the bandit's truck, and she's gonna fall off. And Kinger's like, don't worry, Pomni, grab this. And he throws her an anchor with a string, but the anchor's not attached to anything, so then the anchor is weighing down that truck, and they're like on the edge of a cliff. Pomni and the head bandit get yeeted off the cliff, and they glitch and fall through into a nothingness, while the other bandit's truck also glitches and goes into nothingness, and the main group's truck and them fall into a chocolate river.
I blame you for this.
We see the leader bandit fall down this Alice in Wonderland meets computer graphic style nothingness rabbit hole, crashes in the bottom of this like empty looking Westworld, like, I don't know, cryogenic future space, walks down, and he sees these NPC models of himself, the bandits, and the people from the Candy Kingdom just standing there. Obviously, that's horrifying. So he's like, goes to touch the bandit. He touches his own face. He's fucking horrified. Pomni falls down also, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Actual fuck is this? What is this? And then he notices that none of the gang, none of Pomni and crew are up there. And he's like, well, why the fuck aren't you here? Why don't you have a wax model replica? And she says, I guess because we're not NPCs. And he's like, what? Well, he's Australian. She's like, what are you on about? I think that was decent. He then says, where's my mom? Shouldn't she be up here? And Pomni says, oh, you have a mom?
Shouldn't she be here with everyone else? I can't even remember her face. Did she ever have a face? Was anything ever real?
Okay, wait. Don't think about that.
We're getting existential, okay. And he's like, don't think about that. Let's think about getting back to the top. And he says, I want you to tell me exactly what I am. That wasn't as good. And then we cut back to the Chocolate River. Jax and crew now are like, oh, what are we gonna do? And then a giant chocolate monster thing comes out, talks about how it was banished because it used to terrorize the Candy Kingdom for eating everybody. And Jax is like, cool, get us out of here and don't eat us, and I will get you through the gates of the Candy Kingdom because I have the key. But Ragatha had the key. And she's like, Jax, what the actual fuck? And he's like, shut up. And remember how in episode 1 he said he had keys to everybody's room? Why is Jax always getting these keys? What is that? It's something to think about. Then the bandit's car that had glitched into nowhere crashes, also in the Chocolate River next to the gang's car.
I saw the Reaper wink at me.
Back in the nothingness, the cutaway, we're led to believe that Pomni did explain to him what the fuck the Amazing Digital Circus is, that he was created to exist in the game, and he's not, quote unquote, a real person. Obviously, he's fucking self-aware. So he's obviously like, there's no point in trying, there's no point in me getting back up there, I just exist to be an obstacle you guys overcome. Pomni consoles him, invites him to come live at the circus with her, and he's like, why do you care? And she says,
Guess I just don't want you to feel like you're nothing. I don't want anybody to feel like that.
He agrees to go live at the circus with her. He's like, but let's not tell the lads about this because they're strong, but I don't know if they're strong enough to have their entire sense of reality pulled on the Truman Show kind of thing. Pomni asks him what his name is. He says Gummy Goo. She says that's almost as dumb as Pomni. They chuckle. They get in the NPC model of the truck, the syrup truck that's down there, and they kind of figure out a way to like skyrocket it back up so they can get back on top of the map. Back on top of the map, Jax has tied up the other gummy bandits. They're on the syrup truck that was stolen with the gummy bandits tied, riding on top of the chocolate swamp monster back to the kingdom. I don't know what's not to understand about that. They're talking about what to do, and Jax is ready to have a battle royale finish with bloodshed and everything back at the Candy Kingdom. Ragatha's like, you're a dick. It's clear Jax just wants to feel something. They see the truck that Pomni and Gummy Goo are in shoot up from under the map.
Do you guys have a second truck that flies?
Yeah. Wait, no, we don't. No, not at all.
So then that truck crashes down. Pomni and Gummy Goo get out. The other gators are like, Boss, we're so glad to see you. Pomni goes up to Ragatha and is like, this is Gummy Goo. He's going to come live at the circus with us. And they're having a conversation. And in the background, I didn't realize this till my second watch, you can see the other two gators when they're untied doing little dance moves together. It's so funny. It's so fucking funny. Pomni's like, Gummy Goo's coming back to the circus with us. Ragatha's like, ew, is that allowed? And she's like, yeah, because I say so. And I think they're kind of in love. I was just gonna get a Pomni plush, but I was like, I need to get a Gummy Goo so I can make them kiss. The gummy bandits ask if they can have this second NPC truck full of syrup to take back to their village. We all know now the village does not exist, but Gummy Goo is trying to like keep his boys happy without telling them that they are artificially created characters created by a mad AI that has a set of dentures for a head. And they're like, sure. Jax says, I'm so unbelievably disappointed because he wanted to feel things.
Maybe there will be blood, death, and violence in the next adventure.
Ha 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 ha, how wholesome.
I relate, Jax. Back at the Candy Kingdom, the Candy Princess is like, oh my god, thank you guys so much. The portal opens for them to go back to the circus. She's like, good luck executing that bandit, because Gummy Goo's with them. And they're like, oh, sure. They hear the chocolate swamp monster in the distance. Jax has the key to the kingdom, and he's like, maybe I left the gates open. Let's go. They go back into the circus. Kane pops up and is like, oh, welcome back from the adventure. Gummy Goo's like, so this is the circus, this is nice, and right when you think maybe he and Pomni will start to have a blossoming friendship to lovers kind of situation to survive this mad world together.
Looks like one of these guys made it through.
Wait, what?
That does make it a little sick that there's confetti on this t-shirt. Pomni and us, the audience, are understandably fucking horrified. I was watching this again on my phone in the dark, laying on my back, almost dropped it on my face. Kane's like, oh, I know you love your NPCs, but if I start losing track of who's an NPC and who's a player character, who knows what might happen. What is that, folks? Something to think about. Ragatha's like, well, don't feel bad, Pomni, because Kane likes to reuse NPCs, so he'll probably come back in another adventure. That wasn't the thing to say. Pomni doesn't view Gummy Goo as a stupid, like, mindless NPC that doesn't really exist. Like, he's not a thing. He's not a facet of the game to her. He's a real person that she was, like, starting to care about, whether it be platonically or maybe a little romantically. I don't know. But regardless, he was just turned into confetti in front of her. And no one's really giving her the comfort she needs, I think, in my opinion. Whatever. Ragatha says we're gonna have a funeral for Kaufmo. Do you want to go? Everyone except Jax goes. Jax goes to sulk in the corner. At the end, Pomni has the same kind of dream vision of herself falling down into the abstractment basement, but this time all of her new friends' hands reach out and clasp hers, except Jax's hand. Something to think about. End of episode 2.
No, thanks. I'm trying to quit.
Oh, that's the scary door.
The gang's hanging out in the circus, and Pomni's holding her breath to see what'll happen. And she's like, I'm not good at holding my breath. I feel like I'm gonna die. They're like, but you can't die because we're not really here. But again, you have to wonder, where are their physical bodies? Because we saw at the end of the first episode that we can assume that's the desk Pomni was at when she put on the headset, but her body's not there anymore. So has her consciousness been uploaded? And is it then detached from her physical body? Does she have a physical body to go back to? Do any of them? Because how would those bodies be surviving if they really have been there for years? Is it a don't worry darling situation where Harry Styles is coming in and feeding their comatose bodies every day? I fucking hope not.
I gave this to you! I
gave you all of this, Alice!
Pomni's face changes color when she holds her breath, and Jax explains all the different things that their bodies do when they hold their breath.
Because something different happens with each person. For instance, *𝐮𝐲𝐤 starts glowing, Ragatha's hair noodles stick up, 𝐬𝐤𝐤's mask starts spinning, and 𝐤𝐤𝐤 turns straight.
My limbs straighten up. Fuck off.
They're all like, yeah, Jax won't show us what he does when he holds his breath because he's a coward. And he's like, no, I want to keep the mystery alive. And I think this is what started some fans believing that Jax is actually an NPC because nothing would happen when he holds his breath because he is not a player character. And I think also with him having the keys, with him having such a disregard for any kind of safety on the adventures, for him not caring about the funeral, Gooseworks has confirmed on their Tumblr that Jax is not an NPC. I do think there is still something going on with Kane's whole comment at the end of episode 2 about if I lose track of who's real and who's an NPC, who knows what could happen kind of thing. So then it's also like, does Kane know that the NPCs are coming alive? Because Kane is clearly a sentient AI, so that would just make this a ripple effect. Is there a difference between the sentient AI running the game and the sentient NPC AIs created in the game? What are these things? Things to think about. He's all like, yeah, I want to keep the mystery alive. And then he turns direct to camera. Is like, what do you, the viewer, think? It cuts to this other shot where he's clearly pointing to nothing. And 𝐤𝐤𝐤's like, stop doing that. Kane shows up and is like, time for a new adventure. You're going to the mystery of Middlehall Manor to hunt ghosts. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 sneaks out. 𝐤𝐤𝐤's not feeling it. And Kane's like, no, but I made this adventure really cool just for them. It's super mature. Pomni asks if in this adventure the NPCs will become sentient, and Kane says, who knows? The gang heads to the haunted manor without 𝐤𝐤𝐤. Pomni says that she doesn't like horror. Jax is making fun of her because that's what Jax does. He picks up a vacuum cleaner. A cute little ghost pops out and is like, look at these 2 doors you can go through. There's door A.
Rated wow for all ages.
And then there's a second door.
Rated hot for mature 𝐤𝐤𝐤s only.
Jax then sucks up the cute little ghost with vacuum cleaner. Ragatha's like, Jax, what the fuck? He's like, I thought we were supposed to hunt ghosts. 𝐬𝐤𝐤 then asks Jax, which door should we pick? He says, I don't know, let's try this. Picks off 𝐬𝐤𝐤's comedy mask and yeets it down into the door rated for mature 𝐤𝐤𝐤s only. Because 𝐬𝐤𝐤, I didn't really cover this in the video, but 𝐬𝐤𝐤, as you'll see, she has 2 masks. She has her sad mask and her happy mask. It's the drama mask. But her comedy mask is always breaking. Metaphor. When they saw the first ghost, Pomni screamed and her eyes retracted out of her head, and 𝐮𝐲𝐤 is trying to get her eyes to go back into her head. When he sees 𝐬𝐤𝐤's comedy mask get thrown down that door, the one rated for mature 𝐤𝐤𝐤s only, he goes, oh, I'll get it for you, 𝐬𝐤𝐤, but he's still holding one of Pomni's eyes, and so that ends up dragging Pomni after him down into the scary door. It closes shut behind them. Jax goes,
Oh, that's the scary door.
back at the circus, Kane's looking for 𝐤𝐤𝐤 because he doesn't like that they keep skipping out on the adventures. So he snaps his fingers, 𝐤𝐤𝐤 appears. They're like, could you always do that? And it's like, yes, he could. So that shows us that Kane really does have this omnipotent power, and he just doesn't enact it 24/7. He's giving the gang a sense of freedom and free will and choice that we know they don't actually have. He could make them do whatever he wanted to make them do. So that's disturbing. He forces 𝐤𝐤𝐤 to do a therapy session. And I was like, why won't you do the adventures? 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says that they've told Kane before why they don't want to do the adventures, but Kane never remembers. Back at the manor, Pomni and 𝐮𝐲𝐤 have ended up in this weird library type subfloor. Pomni's eyes are back in her head. They see a bunch of scary creatures mounted on the wall, taxidermy style, that all kind of look like their heads. And then they see one head that kind of looks like the Scream, but somehow even more disturbing. And they're like, what the fuck is this? Pomni notices a tape player. She goes to play it. It's a player from the guy whose manor this is. His name is Baron Theodore Middlehall. And he talks about how he found out about this creature, which is obviously the Scream one on the head, and how he became obsessed with hunting the creature, and because he was worried it would kill his family. But he became too obsessed with it. It was his white whale. It was his heart beneath the floorboards. It was his pale blue eye. He says that the creature was something unholy, something evil, as Dr. Loomis's professional diagnosis would be pure evil. Pomni says they should try to get back up to the others. 𝐮𝐲𝐤's like, good idea. They see a dumbwaiter. The dumbwaiter's locked. And Pomni's like, great. I love that it's locked. This is just great. She's losing it, which is fair. I would be too. So they go into this library space, they're looking all around for the key. There's another tape recorder. King presses it. The same guy's voice, Mr. Middlehall, starts talking about how the creature came. He killed the creature, or so he thought. He severed its head, but the body wasn't there. He's like, oh my god, don't let the head out of your sight if you see it. King says this is some inconvenient lore placement. Pomni finds the key. The lights go out. This very funny little back and forth bit happens.
What was that? Was that you?
No. Oh, wait, you mean me grabbing you right now? Yeah, that was me.
And it's very like Dory and Marlin kind of vibes, or like if you've seen Poe Party with George Eliot and Oscar Wilde's characters in the basement.
Well, that is not great.
What's in there?
I think it's, ravens?
Hold on, I'm gonna go get a crowbar. Or a raven bar. Oh, yeah. Oh, what about a cockatiel bar?
No, stop. Oh, I got it. A blue-footed booby bar. Stop. I'm loving this gaiety, but there is excrement all over me, please.
Oh, I'll be right back.
They're like, okay, let's hold hands and walk over to the dumbwaiter. Right when they do that, the giant scary head floats off the wall. It's glowing. Pomni races to the dumbwaiter, unlocks it, and is like, Kinger, move your ass. Kinger is kind of transfixed by it.
You look beautiful, honey.
Pomni grabs him, yanks him into the dumbwaiter, but the dumbwaiter will not go up, it only goes down. And they're like, oh, what the actual fuck. Back at the circus, the whole therapy session is ongoing. Kane is so annoyed that Zooble won't remind him what they don't like, and Zooble finally says, okay, fine, I don't like my body. I don't like these removable parts. Like, it's not about you and the Avengers, it's about me. And Kane says, oh, I remember now why I didn't remember that, because that problem is solved. Look at this box of removable, reusable Zooble parts. So obviously Kane's a fucking idiot. They say that nobody likes the Avengers. Jax is an asshole. Ragatha is too nice to say anything. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 is a people pleaser. Kinger is crazy, and Pomni looks traumatized every time she comes back from one. King kind of freaks out, and he's like, well, I was made to create adventures. And if you're saying I'm not good at the only thing I was made for, then, and then the entire circus starts glitching around them. What the fuck? And Zooble's like, okay, whose therapy session is this? And Kane's like, oh, you're right, back to your behavioral problems. So they've kind of like tamed Kane, but that really does show how fucking on edge this guy is. Back at the manor, Pomni and Kinger are now in like a sub-basement. They find this dead body of who they assume is Baron Theodore Middlehall. And they're like, okay, let's take his gun. I went through pretty much all of Gooseworks Tumblr asks before I went insane because I've been scrolling on Tumblr for hours. And someone had asked them what their favorite joke was in the 4 episodes that are out. And they said in episode 3,
please don't come alive.
Okay, I won't.
They find another tape. They play the tape. The tape, he's like, if you guys find this, tell my family I love them. I died protecting them from the creature. They see the floating head come at them at the same time that the headless body comes at them. They only have 2 bullets. Pomni's like, Kinger, oh my god. Kinger's like, I got this. Kinger shoots them both with the rifle, and it's kind of hot. Shut up. But then the tape cuts in again. The fucking Middlehall bitch is like, but actually, the creature was one of God's angels, and in killing it, I was sentenced to hell, and I need one of your earthly bodies to escape hell.
Now wait, how did he record this if he was in hell?
And these hands are coming out of the floor, drag me to hell style, to drag them to hell. Ragatha, 𝐤𝐤𝐤, and Jax have been having a tea party with the ghost of Middlehall's widow. They tied Jax up though because they don't want to hear his bullshit, and Ragatha just wanted to have a nice tea. So then they fall down to literal hell, except it's not literal hell because we're in the Amazing Digital Circus, but they start calling it literal hell because, as you can see, this is their reality now. There is nothing but the Amazing Digital Circus, and was there ever? Chicken or egg? Life or Amazing Digital Circus? Things to think about. They see a passage out, and there are stairs at the end, but there's also creepy demonic souls floating all around. Pomni says, I'm going to try going really fast. Kinger's like, wait, no. Pomni tries going really fast. The souls infect her. Kinger is trying to get the souls out of her, and they're saying all this fuck shit, and they say, how's your wife, Kinger? What? Excuse me? Do you remember in episode 1 when I told you there was a crossed out queen chess piece on one of the doors? Yeah. Were you thinking about it? Because it was something to think about. Kinger gets the souls out of Pomni. She's an absolute mess. And she's crying and she says,
He just wants me to suffer.
He who. And then King sits down next to her, tries to comfort her. And as we can see throughout this adventure, King is becoming like kind of more and more like with it, like less flighty and crazy, like more rational in the moment. So then he says something that I think is one of the most important lines to hold on to in trying to figure out the puzzle of what's going on in this show.
7 years of computer science for this, huh? 7 years of computer science for this, huh?
He's trying to kind of like talk Pomni up, give her like a pep talk, and it is nice because we see throughout the show that Pomni's always the one that kind of ends up trying to talk to people and take care of them and make them feel better. Pomni's like, did you have a wife here at the circus? And he says, yes, I did. And he talks about how she loved entomology and he used to hate bugs, but because she loved entomology, he loved entomology. They lived in this little pillow fort together. And he says that when she abstracted, he was able to calm her down for a moment. And he we cut to this flashback of him like caressing her face. And then she obviously gets lowered and trapped in the basement. And that's obviously why Kinger is like insane now and not good with memories, because he doesn't want to remember how, like fully how he lost his wife. But the further they go down into this traumatic hellscape, it's like the personal hell of Pomni is this overwhelming lack of control of like her body and her destiny, and for Kinger it's to remember his wife and what has happened to her. And we now know that when he was like looking at the scary head and he gazed into its mouth and he said, "You look beautiful, honey," that he was like seeing his wife, because the last moments with his wife she was like a floating abstract monster. Kinger tells Pomni that she's very brave and he knows she can get through this. He then realizes that the voice on the tape said that their next breath would be their last. So what if they hold their breath? Because if they hold their breath when they walk through, the souls won't be able to get to them. Pomni says she's not very good at holding her breath. Kinger says, let's try not thinking about it. We have this beautiful scene where they hold hands, they walk down the path. Remember they said Kinger glows when he holds his breath. So he's this glowing light. Pomni's face changes colors. It's really strange and weird and beautiful. And they get to the stairs and they go on up. But Pomni had pointed out back down there, when we get up there, you won't remember any of this, will you? Because, you know, when they get back to the surface, Kinger will resort to like his crazy self. And Kinger says, probably not, but as long as you do, that's all that matters. Kinger, be still my beating heart. So they get up there and he's like, Pomni was very brave. Actually, were you? And she says something like that. They head on out back to the circus through the little portal. 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤's there. Now they're doing like therapy for Cain, and Cain's like, and then I wonder, was the Wild West even a direction? And it's like, ha ha ha. When they all get back, Jax says to Pomni, how was it being stuck with the nutcase? She, you know, clearly wants to like gossip and yap and make fun of Kinger, and she says it actually wasn't that bad. End of episode 3.
Welcome back, my meowing milkmaids.
Don't ever call us that again.
Don't you want to be a model employee?
No, I don't care about any of this.
Ragatha, Jax, and 𝐤𝐤𝐤 are playing baseball. Jax is batting, Ragatha's showing 𝐤𝐤𝐤 how to throw the ball. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 throws it. Jax hits it too hard. It breaks 𝐤𝐤𝐤's comedy mask. Now the dogs are barking downstairs. Wow. They are still going. Let's just ignore that and carry on, shall we? Jax says he genuinely didn't mean to break 𝐤𝐤𝐤's mask, which, like, I believe, but because Jax is always a dick, Ragatha's just not having it, and they start arguing. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says to 𝐤𝐤𝐤, come here, I think I have something that might work. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 takes 𝐤𝐤𝐤 to their room, over to their box of interchangeable parts that Cain gave them, and has a plastic comedy type mask and says, this is kind of like your mask, and it's plastic, so it won't break as easy. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 puts it on. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, how does it feel? 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says,
normal. Like, in a good way.
Jax, Ragatha, and Pomni to the door. Jax says, what's this? You're just giving away parts now? Ragatha says, just to her. And Jax says, sorry, Pomni, guess you won't get that unicorn horn you've been wanting. Pomni says, when did I ever say anything about that? 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, I think you'd look good with one. Pomni says, well, maybe. And then Cain pops up.
Did somebody say adventure?
And they're like, no, bitch, God. Today's adventure is the meat murderer slasher, blah, blah, blah. Another horrible horror one. Pomni's like, excuse me, no, I don't want to do any more horror. Last time was so scary. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, is that the adventure he created for me last time? What happened? Pomni explains how horrific it was with the monsters and the hell and the souls possessing them and whatnot.
Why did you think I would like that?
Pomni says, can we please do something normal? Cain says, well, I don't know what's normal to you people. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, well, why don't you check the suggestion box? Cain says, I'm gonna be real, I forgot we had that. Pomni says, we have a suggestion box? 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, essentially, no. Cain goes to the suggestion box to see what's going on in there. And Cain pulls out a suggestion from 𝐤𝐤𝐤 where they have an adventure where Jax can't speak. They have one that is Jax, that 𝐤𝐤𝐤 gets turned into a piñata that they all beat. And then they have one that was 𝐤𝐤𝐤's that they all go work at a fast food restaurant for the day. Warning, if you've ever worked in like fast food cashier customer service, which I and many of my fellow Americans have, this episode is like, I hate to use the word triggering, but it is like, ooh, War flashbacks. I need a minute. Today's adventure is a hard day's work at Spudsy's, and he says that 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 can be shift managers, and she suggested it. 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 says that she used to be a shift manager, so this is perfect for her. So let's recap really quickly the hints we know about the characters' lives. So we know Pomni said, he just wants me to suffer. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 said, 7 years of computer science for this. We know 𝐤𝐤𝐤 had a wife, but we don't know if they met before the circus or while they were in it. And we know that 𝐤𝐤𝐤 was supposedly there the longest, and now we know that 𝐤𝐤𝐤 was a shift manager. 𝐤𝐫𝐭 tries to dip out on this adventure, and Kane's pissed about it. He's like, no, oh my god, you have to do it. 𝐤𝐵𝐿's like, I'm not gonna be a wage slave. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, how about I sit this one out and 𝐤𝐵𝐿 can take my place? And 𝐤𝐵𝐿's like, that's not how it works. Then Kane says, you can shut up now. Magics them on over to the fast food restaurant and let the real horror begin. Am I right? So they get there, and 𝐤𝐤𝐤's like, let's get ready to open up. And Jax is immediately like not having it. And he goes, oh no, I've dumped Ragatha in the deep fryer. That would be more horrifying, but it's like they can't be burned or anything. She's a rag doll. It's fine. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, no, we're not going to have any of that. Jax says, what are you going to do? And 𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, I'm calling up her management. She calls Kane and asks that there be punishments waiting for people who don't take this seriously. Pomni is ringing up gas. Someone called Orb Guy comes in. Then somebody comes up and orders a stupid burger and says, don't forget the stupid sauce. Pomni says, is that something we have? And Ragatha goes, yeah, I'm on it. Ragatha goes to make the stupid sauce burger. She gets some of it in her eye, and it then starts making her trip out. Jax says to 𝐤𝐵𝐿, so you're just actually doing the job. 𝐤𝐵𝐿 says, yes, I don't want Kane to punish me. Jax says, Kane won't do that. It's not in his nature. And 𝐤𝐵𝐿 points out, the only reason Kane doesn't hurt us is because he likes us. I don't want to risk it. And you see a little glimmer of Jax being like, what the fuck does that mean? And then 𝐬𝐸𝐤𝐤 comes in, and Pomni is unwell about it. She's so excited at first, but then she realizes that, of course, 𝐬𝐸𝐤𝐤 does not recognize her. So now the gummy bandits are over at a table. Pomni goes over to kind of try to talk to them to see basically if she can, like, get 𝐬𝐸𝐤𝐤 to remember who she is and like the moments they share together in the Candy Kingdom. Then 𝐤𝐤𝐤 comes up to a now like drunk and high Ragatha and is like, where is Pomni?
She's flirting with the gummy guy because she'd rather be with an NPC than with us.
Ragatha, shut the fuck up. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 in full asshole manager mode was over there and is like, Pomni, stop weirding out the customers and get back on register. Pomni says, but it's 𝐬𝐸𝐤𝐤. And you can see in his face that he's confused and like almost sad, like, wait, I do know her. Why do I know her and I don't remember her? Because she knows my name and she's acting like she knows me. And 𝐤𝐤𝐤 is like, girl, no, get on the register. And Pomni says, but it's 𝐬𝐸𝐤𝐤 and it's not like any of this is real. Which, like, yeah.
And next you're gonna say my authority isn't real.
I remember thinking, I'm about to beat this bitch up.
Gloink Mother Monster comes into order and Pomni's gonna take her order, but then she sees that the gummy bandits are leaving and she's like, wait a minute, and she races over to them and she stops them and 𝐬𝐸𝐤𝐤 looks back at her so sad. And it's like, does he remember her? Is this an eternal sunshine of the spotless mind thing? Like, what's going on? And then she says, I just want to wish you a pleasant day. Thanks for eating at Spudsy's. He says, have a good one, miss. Tips his hat to her. And then if you listen really closely in the background, you can hear my heart shattering into a million tiny pieces. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 finds Jax refusing to work and is like, that's not a can-do attitude. And Jax is like, it's not. I don't care about any of this. Relatable.
Jaxie boy, don't you want to be a model employee?
No, I don't care about any of this.
I love 𝐤𝐤𝐤, but she was annoying as fuck in this episode. Like, she was drunk on that fake managerial power. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 makes Jax go watch this disturbing training video. We've all been there too. Back out front, Ragatha is failing to assemble these burgers and 𝐤𝐵𝐿's like, what is wrong with you? Get it together. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 comes out, sees Ragatha's a mess, and is like, what are you doing? And Ragatha's like, I just need to add the horseradish. And then she says, I miss my horses. So add that to the list of things we know about them in their life outside of this. 𝐤𝐤𝐤 basically is kind of like, Ragatha, get it together, because like I told Kane to punish people who don't get it together, and you might, if you don't try now, you might get hurt later. And Ragatha says this quote,
I'm hard enough. Packages landing on my head, tea parties, dancing lessons.
And at first I thought, oh, maybe that's also a hint to her life outside of this, but then I learned that is a reference to something Raggedy Andy says in the Raggedy Ann show.
I'll tell you something, I'm getting pretty sick and tired of all the dumb things that go on around here.
Jax gets out of training. He sees Ragatha on the floor. She's like, Jax, I hate you, but I don't want you to hate me. Is that weird? And Jax is like, you're drunk or something. He goes out to the front and he says to Pomni, how are you doing? And he's being genuine. And usually he's always antagonizing Pomni. So she's kind of like taken aback by that. She's like, I'm fine. And he says, wish I could say it the same. And then Gangle is like, says the worst thing I've ever heard. Gangle says,
you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
I was, ooh. Every time I heard it, all 3 times I watched the show, even when I knew it was coming, I was like. So Gangle goes out back, takes her mask off, the comedy mask, and screams and cries. And notices Pomni is right there. Pomni tries to comfort them, and Gangle says, my comedy mask is usually broken by now. Like the most in-your-face metaphor for masking ever, and it's great. Just that idea, it's usually broken by now. Like usually the idea of like feeling like you can be comfortable around people. I guess like Gangle isn't feeling comfortable around them in this setting because they're not respecting her. There's a lot to unpack. Jack's shift ends, he leaves, he goes out to the parking lot. There is a car out there with the license plates that says Jack001. What? What does that mean?
Consider the phone.
Supposedly Kinger was there first? Why does Jax say 001? But also my sister suggested we look up what that means in the binary code, and it just means 1, and 1 in binary code means truth. So does that mean Jax knows the truth of what's going on in the Amazing Digital Circus, and that's why he has keys and is kind of like just half-assing the adventure? What does it mean?
What does it mean?
So 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 comes to Gangle and says like Ragatha is still basically drunk and high and needs a designated driver. Gangle is just broken at this point, is very sad. She says, why are you telling me I'm closing tonight? 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, no, I'll take her. Gangle says she gets off in an hour. 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 says that they'll wait around till then. No one's shift at a fast food restaurant is 12 hours like this. I guess if you do a double or something, usually it's 6 to 8 hours here in the US of A. I guess it would have been like clunky to throw NPCs also into the staff. Whatever. 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 and Ragatha leave. It's down to Gangle and Pomni. Gangle's supposed to be closing, but Gangle is clearly suffering. Pomni says to Gangle, why don't you go home and get rest and I'll close? And Gangle says, would that be okay, in like the most heartbreaking way? Gangle leaves. Pomni's like, what a weird day. Gangle goes upside, she takes off her face comedy mask, yeets it to the sky, and is like, finally feels free and happy that she doesn't have to mask anymore. And she goes skipping about, and then she runs out into moving traffic and gets hit by a truck and wakes up in Kane's office. I love this light-hearted show. But remember, Kane said he would punish people who fucked up. He says you cut your own shift short and then you went out into traffic. Now, as the manager, you can shirk this responsibility off on somebody else, like blame somebody else for that. Gangle says, no, it was my responsibility. Kane gives her a B+. She's very sad. She thinks everyone hates her now. We also notice that on Kane's whiteboard behind him with the pictures of everyone else working at Spudsies, Kinger was riding a bull, and he got an A+. So that's something to think about. Later, Gangle is sitting alone crying, drawing her art, and 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 comes over and is like, why are you over here by yourself? Gangle says that she messed everything up and everyone's mad at her. And 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤's like, that's not true, and like, listen, so the comedy mask was a bust, something will work out eventually. Bring your art, I love seeing your art, everyone wants to hang out with you. And Gangle says, I don't deserve a friend like you. 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐤 says, well, you've got one. Gangle goes over to sit with the group. End of episode 4.
That was weird.
Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am.
The Amazing Digital Circus takes some inspiration from the 1967 short story I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison. So a brief summary of this short story. In the future, humanity creates a computer called AM or AM, which is obviously then like a little twist on the I think, therefore I am. They create it to be a weapon of mass destruction, of war. It becomes sentient. It has all this beautiful brain and creativity, but it's trapped in a computer. It can't do anything. It's furious. It kills all of humanity, leaves a select 5 people alive, and tortures them for years down below the earth, keeping them young, keeping them alive, and just torturing them for its own amusement. There's this incredible speech Am gives in like the 3rd act of the story to the narrator Richard about how much it hates them. There's never been hate like the hate Am has for humanity. I read the short story, but the audiobook, I listened to a snippet of the audio of that. Jesus Christ.
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant. For you, hate.
Cain, instead of hate, is so bored. It's like boredom, unfathomable boredom, and that's why Cain's making them go on all the adventures. So instead of torment, it's adventures. But if you can never actually like finish and win the game, and it's just adventure after adventure, like what in the Spy Kids 3D is going on here? Why did I say the narrator's name is Richard? The narrator's name is Ted. Where was I getting Richard from? They've tried to kill themselves over the years they've been alive, the decades, the centuries, and it doesn't happen because Am always stops them. Ted realizes that if in like a spur of the moment he kills everybody else, they can be free of this endless hell, and so he does, and they're grateful, but this means he can't die. And so as punishment, Am transforms him into this horrifying blob monster with no mouth. So I have no mouth and I must scream. The end. Interestingly enough, in 1995, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream was turned into a click point adventure game for the computer. Obviously, they changed the ending because you can't really win a game where the ending is you all fail. Either everyone dies or you get turned into a monster with no mouth. You kind of have to rework that a little bit. Useworks also said, I'm reading off my notes, something called Poppy the Performer was an inspiration for Jackson Gangle. I looked this up. Horrifying. It's a CGI animated series created by Ryuji Masuda, aired on the kids station between 2000 and 2003. Listen, I didn't watch any of this because I can't, guys. I can only go so far for this, all right? I'm sorry. Obviously, there's so much more that goes into the Amazing Digital Circus besides this short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and the computer game version of it. We can take the Alice in Wonderland of it all, the madness, the endlessness, the Queen of Hearts has people play this nonsensical version of croquet and have like this nonsensical court. Cain has everyone go on these little weird pointless adventures. Jax is a bunny and we literally see the imagery of him jumping down a hole in the first episode. Did I mention that in episode 4 there's a Raggedy Andy reference? With that whole Raggedy Andy thing where it's like, I'm getting pretty sick and tired of all the weird things that keep happening around here. With something to think about.
Cain, are we robbing a bank?
Nonsense! We're adventuring a bank, Pomni! Keep up!
So obviously there's a wealth, a plethora, an ocean of fan content, but something I would really like to talk about is the short film Kaufmo, created by Bonksy. This is a short film that literally takes place right before the pilot happens, right before Pomni shows up. So Kaufmo is doing stand-up routine for the rest of the members of the circus. He's not doing well. He's not hitting it out of the park, babes, and nobody's laughing and he's really embarrassed. He goes down the hall to his room. He's not happy. He sees what? An exit, and he goes through there, and it just keeps leading the same way that Pomni's did, door after door to nothingness. Now his isn't leading to offices, just kind of like endless rooms to nothingness until he ends up in this black void, and there is an abstracted form there, and so he's trying to run back to hide from the abstracted form, and it's not working, and then finally Cain shows up and saves him. Debatable how we're gonna view saving in this instant, brings him back to his room. Kaufmo goes fucking insane, starts, writing exit all over the wall, Red Rum style, and then that is where the pilot picks up. It's a very good short film. There's a popular song that went viral on TikTok called Happy Place.
It's so much better than real life!
This sucks. Life is feeling like a bunch of humdrum pom-pom banging in my head. I'm trapped inside of the back of my mind. I've gotta leave.
By Z Animation. It's really fun, and they got the original voice actors to sing for it.
Shut up! I have so much to show you!
The history of circuses and clownery plays a lot into this. If we're to look in my book, Send in the Clowns, at the very beginning, we have, what is a clown? A clown is a person who performs comedy and arts in a state of open-mindedness using physical comedy, typically while wearing distinct makeup or costuming and reversing folkway norms. What clowns are and how clowns performed has historically as a mirror to what's going on in humanity to try to bring levity to a non-whimsical world, and over time that kind of morphed into how stand-up comedy is, because stand-up comedy is a form of clowning. And you think about all the political stand-up comics who make commentary about the state of the world, but bring this sense of joy to how they process it. So, for example, the hobo clown got big during the Great Depression as a way to hold that mirror up to society. So if we're looking at that and we think about that, the idea of a clown is to entertain the people, the masses. 𝐤𝐤𝐢𝐚𝐥𝐬's design was that of a classic white-faced circus Perot kind of clown. And he's trying to entertain the people of the Amazing Digital Circus, and it's not working. And interesting that right after that, he abstracts. And then Pomni shows up. And Pomni has a clown aesthetic too, but her aesthetic is that of a jester. And a jester predates modern day clowns. And the jester existed to entertain the king, which is Cain. But even Pomni's not really entertaining Cain because she's questioning everything he does. She's bringing in NPCs. She's literally like awaking people into a different level of consciousness to question the system they've all been trapped in for God knows how long, which makes you wonder, is Cain actively luring people in? Is it just by chance? Cain is surely deciding the aesthetic they bring in. Why? Is there a point? Is there a reason? Can there only be one clown at a time in this circus? Like, what are these roles they need to fill? The idea of a circus, a performance of spectacle, of this type of narrative that transcends language and time exists as now this hellscape because they're not actually doing anything circusy. They're going on these adventures that are very far detached from what a circus is. Like, you're never seeing anybody put on a circus. Who is the circus for? Who is the spectacle for? Who else is watching? Who made this circus? Did Cain make it? Why? Someone had to make Cain. And what is that, friends? It's something to think about.
With this many new characters, imagine all the violent shipping wars that we'll be completely powerless to do anything about!
Asked what Gooseworks would like people to take away from the Amazing Digital Circus, they said that there is meaning to be found in a stagnant life. So what the fuck does that mean? So that's all we have so far in the canon world of the Amazing Digital Circus. Now we do know from their Patreon video where they talked about their Patreon and money and merch and everything that there is like a rough sketch for episode 5 that Cain shows us for a split second of a baseball field. I have a theory. It's not like a full scope explaining the whole thing theory, but I do think 𝐤𝐻𝐻 made the game. I don't think this is what the game was made to do. I think the Amazing Digital Circus was meant to be like this fun VR game that people could play and go through different adventure levels, and once you went through them all, you got out of the game. I think then Cain became aware and went insane and didn't like people leaving the game and wanted to just keep making more insane adventures, and so he figured out a way to keep trapping people in the game, but then it's also like, where are their physical bodies? My sister thinks 𝐤𝐻𝐻 saw what he did in creating this game where Cain has just been torturing humans for who knows how long in the sake of his own entertainment, and 𝐤𝐻𝐻 put himself in the game, and I think he maybe met his wife in the game, not outside of the game. Regardless, I definitely think 𝐤𝐻𝐻 made the game. And I do think Jax has actually been there the longest, not 𝐤𝐻𝐻. And I think Jax knows the truth of what's going on with the game. I also think that Pomni and 𝐬𝐭 should kiss, but Gooseworks said none of the ships are going to be confirmed as canon, which sadness, but they're canon in my heart. Let me know what your Amazing Digital Circus takes are below. Make sure you follow me on TikTok and Instagram at @MagicalMolly, on Tumblr at @TheMagicalMolly. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a match for the rest of the week, and I will see you soon with another video. Goodbye!